I'm Corbett Wall with DVAuction, here with your feeder flash for Friday, January the 26th, brought to you in part by Norfenacol by Norbrook. The bioequivalent of Nuflor, it's a generic Nuflor. Norfenacol is fast. It reaches therapeutic blood levels within the lungs in just 30 minutes. Let Norfenacol get you to the bottom of BRD fast. For more information, go to norbrook.com. Carcass weights are plunging, and 10 pounds might not seem like a big plunge for average steer carcass weights, but they're just starting. We're just now getting into the really cold spell because all this actual carcass information is 2 weeks behind, which seems kind of ridiculous to me, but we are seeing them come down in a big way, and that makes a lot of difference because beef is all about tonnage. And when you drop 10 pounds in 1 week, from 1 week to the next for your average dressed steer carcass weight, that's a bunch, and it's going to drop even more next week because that's when we really got into the bitter cold there. But that's going to make a big difference to the packers. They're paying attention to that. They come out, started buying cattle this week in the middle of the week, and on Thursday they did even more. They still need negotiated cattle. That makes us feel good that they still need to buy negotiated cattle. They gritted their teeth. They bought negotiated cattle higher, knowing that it's going to cost them more on all the formula cattle that they've already got under contract. But it happened on Thursday this week, and it was impressive. It was impressive to the board. The board was up big, even on the February spot month there, and it went up even further above what they were paying for negotiated cash fat cattle on Thursday. But things are going good in the fat cattle arena right now, as we just felt emboldened that they had to come out and buy cattle higher, which they hate to do. Your slaughter is improving, not as much as we had really hoped, but it is coming up to a reasonable level. Not yet up to year-ago levels, but so much better than what we've seen over the last month or so with all the holiday and the storm interruptions there. But we are getting back up there on our slaughter levels, and we really got to get that going to get these cattle pushed through. We're kind of backed up right now on our market-ready fat cattle because the change speeds have been so slow during the holidays and through the bitter cold interruptions there. But we are kind of getting things back to going. We're starting to work through all these feeder cattle that got backed up because so many sale barns were closed down over the holidays and through the bitter cold. But we're moving a lot of feeder cattle, and the market is holding pretty well and even getting higher in some cases there. But the last few days that I've been talking about the National Corporate Beef Association's decisions to make policy for EID. And even though they didn't say mandatory in there, they're giving the USDA the okay to make EID or mandatory ID a thing, and it's going to happen next week in Orlando at the big meeting when they all vote on it. But it could get a little bit sticky, and I'm glad at least that they are going to show a little bit of balk at the deal. And of course, it's not going to be the ones that have all the votes, which are your big feeder cattle states like Kansas and Texas, but your southeastern states are starting to find out about it. I've had a lot of calls, people saying, gosh, I didn't know this was coming up already. And in some cases, their state affiliate has already said that they think it's okay, but they haven't found out from their members and from the big sale barns. They're also members, but there's going to be a little bit of kickback on this, and I still think there's going to be plenty of votes to get it pushed through, and USDA wants it, NCBA wants it, so it's probably going to go through, but not just floating through without anybody paying attention. But I don't think it's a good deal. Most people don't think it's a good deal. It's basically going to make your sale barns, where we have a lot of small producers, just a tagging station, and they really don't have time to do that. And you think, well, they can charge for it, but most of them don't want to do that. They're not excited about extra shrink on the cattle, having to bring the cattle in earlier to get them all tagged and all that thing. And even though they can charge for that, most of those sale barns don't really want to do it, and we don't want them to have complete control, tracking control on all of our cattle, and no telling what's going to happen after that. So it's something to think about, guys. But let's talk about your board on Thursday. February live cattle futures up 237 at 177.72. That was pretty impressive there. April up 235 at 180.70. That sounds pretty good. Your back months were all up from 60 cents to $2.15. So big gains in your fed cattle pits there. January feeder cattle up 20 cents at 232.02. Of course, that's coming to fruit right now, so it's just kind of try to align with the CME cash feeder cattle index, which is running behind your real-time index, which is always up to date and current, but it's got to do what it's got to do. But all the rest of your feeder cattle were up sharply. March feeder cattle contracts up $4.40 at 238.17, and the back months were up 272 to 412. Very impressive gains in the feeder cattle futures. Your grains, March corn down 1/2 cent at 451 3/4. March beans down 17 1/4 at 12.23, and Kansas City hard red winter wheat for March up 11 1/4 cent at 637. Your fat cattle trade did take place on Thursday. Of course, it started on Wednesday, and we saw 175 paid pretty readily, especially in the southern plains on Wednesday. But on Thursday, they had to start buying some of those better, higher grading cattle in the northern plains and the Midwest, and they had to come up with more money. Iowa sold 11,200 head on Thursday, just 11,700 head for the week, because they weren't happy with those steady bids they were getting up until Thursday. But live sales in Iowa from 173 to 177.50. That's higher, guys. That's at least $2 or more higher on the top end of your live price there. Dress price was $3 higher from 275 to mostly 277. Nebraska sold 12,000 head on Thursday before 2 o'clock, and that's all they'd sold all week. 174 to mostly 177 live. Dress price from 275 to 220 or 277.50. Kansas sold some more cattle, 3,600 head on Thursday, 13,200 head for the week. That's about twice what they've been doing here for the last month or 6 weeks here. And the live price from 174 to mostly all 175, which is $2 higher than last week. And a little bit of dress trade in northern Kansas at 277. Texas sold 5,700 head on Thursday, 6,000 for the week, 174 to mostly 175, and like I said, $2 higher in the southern plains. Box beef cutout values were mixed. Of course, we got too close to that $300 on choice cuts, so they backed up even more. On Thursday afternoon, they were down 82 cents at 298.68. Selects were up 61, continuing to narrow that choice select spread at 287.85. Your slaughter is 492,000 through the first 4 days of the week. That's 30,000 more than last week with the weather interruptions, but still 8,000 less than the same week a year ago. And your actual slaughter information, like we talked about at the beginning of this report, average dressed steer carcass weight at 927 pounds, which is still enormous, but it's 10 pounds less than the same report the previous week, and but it's still 13 pounds more than the same report a year ago. Talk about what else is going on. Livestock Risk Services, that's Dakota Moss there, and he's now working with National Livestock and still officing there in the Oklahoma National Stockyards Exchange building. He's got a lot of agents that work with him. They are your LRP specialists, guys. They can answer all your questions about LRPs. And if you're not doing it, I mean, there's been a lot of talk about it. Big use of the LRPs, pulling the board down there late last year, but they are still the thing, guys. If you're background in cattle especially, and also for you cow-calf producers, guys, you need to look at these LRPs. With the government supplements, they are the thing. So for more information there, go to livestockriskservices.com. Talk about your feeder cattle. Your real-time index on DVAuction based on an 800-pound cash auction steer up through your middle 12 states, and we've had a ton of them dump in there for that 7-day moving average. And on Thursday late, it was sitting at 234.58. That's up 80 cents. Now, it was up big on Tuesday, down some on Wednesday, but back up Thursday. Your latest CME cash feeder cattle index, of course, is running behind at 230.68. Talk about some sales you need to be looking at on DVAuction.com. The Red Bluff gelding and bull sale is going on this weekend, guys, and you can watch it on DVAuction. You might want to get you an adult beverage so you feel like you're part of the gang there, but they have a big time in Red Bluff, California there at the bull and gelding sale there. They're selling dogs and geldings on Friday and selling bulls on Saturday at Red Bluff, and you can tune in to DVAuction.com, view and bid that sale right there. Talk about your big feeder cattle sales on Thursday. Farmers and Ranchers Livestock in Salina, Kansas sold 3,300 head. The market was $2 to $10 higher than the last test, and that's typical. We've just been seeing higher markets everywhere on our feeder cattle. Winter Livestock in Pratt, Kansas sold 2,600. Market there was $2 to $6 higher, so a good sale there in Pratt. Your NationalBeefWire stick-out sale of the day was Mitchell Livestock Marketing in Mitchell, South Dakota. 5,100 head. The market was $2 to $12 higher, and spots $15 higher. They were selling mostly big calves. Of course, they're feeder cattle up in that country. They wean them big, and by the time they get them long time weaned, they're ready to go to the feedlot, guys. But look at this automated market report through Cattle Market Central. You see 634 head of 6-weight steers in Mitchell, South Dakota. They averaged 656 with a weighted average price of $269.86. 561 head of 7-weight steers averaged 751 at $249.57. 688 head of 8-weight steers in Mitchell, South Dakota had an average weight of 836 pounds with a weighted average price on nearly 700 of them of $239.45. That's about $5 higher than real-time index, guys. How about your heifers? 294 head of 5-weight heifer calves. Mitchell, South Dakota averaged 545 at $264.93. 617 head of 6-weight heifers averaged 648 at $242.95. And 727 head, not keeping a lot there back, 7-weight heifers averaged 755 with a weighted average price of $219.88. Going to give you some individual quotes, and the first one is also from Mitchell, South Dakota. They had a stick-out sale there too. At Mitchell Livestock Marketing, they sold 56 head of 852-pound steers in one drag. They bring $248.50. How about Valentine Livestock Auction up in Valentine, Nebraska? The Burdick Ranch, they sold some impressive steers there. 78 head of them, weighed 620 and bring $308.50. Wow, that's about the biggest price I've seen on 6-weight steers here this winter. But the most impressive quote that I saw anywhere on Thursday in your Macrocin No BS top quote for the day, come out of Ogallala Livestock Auction in Ogallala, Nebraska, was 87 steer calves, weighed 526 and bring $349. And that's your feeder flash for Friday.